He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checkered time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to the final weekend. Holy smokes. We've made it to the playoff, the championship round. 4 drivers left. Phoenix. Gosh, it's been a long year. Man, a lot of videos, a lot of new subscribers. I appreciate everyone tuning in week after week. I get as much enjoyment out of doing the video as hopefully you get from watching and getting the information, and I truly appreciate everyone showing up and putting in their chats and discussions and all that fun stuff. It's been a fun year. It's been a great year, and we've got one race left. Martinsville last weekend was a little on the chilly side, but it was actually a great race. A lot of fun to go and watch the Final Four get picked, and yeah, I'm excited for this race tomorrow at Phoenix to round off the year and finish it out. And then we'll take a couple months off and get some house projects done and things like that. And we'll get back to it in Daytona for in February. So hopefully you'll stick around and show back up in February, and we'll start it up again. So, but once again, I truly appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you happen to be new here. If you don't happen to be new here, then make sure you hit the like button. But let's get into it. We're down to the Final Four. Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Briscoe. That's it. Which one of the 4 are going to take it? Well, I think you'd know my pick. I'm rooting for Larson to win. Now, where do I put my money? Oh, that's a different story. Well, maybe not. I mean, I definitely like Larson. I like Larson's long run speed in practice. I like Hamlin's hard work and front row starting spot. Willie B had probably the best well-rounded car, and then there's Briscoe that just his crew royally messed him up with his setup to start practice. So also definitely bear with me. I ended up catching, I guess, a kind of nasty little cold while I was out in the cold all weekend at Martinsville, and also hanging out with little kiddos and stuff like that. But either way, just bear with me if I happen to go on a coughing spree. I'll try to put the mute button on, and I'll try not to sneeze and do all the fun stuff that colds bring. But either way, let's head back to Martinsville real quick, where Willie B, William Byron, got the win. I mean, he had to kind of win to get into the Final Four, and he pulled that off in pretty historic style. But that's kind of what Hendrick does here, and that 24 car does here at Martinsville. And it was in quite an enjoyable race. Either way, oops. Yeah, that's the Roval. I don't have the optimals from that race. No. All right. I can show it though. Hold on 1 second. Find it real quick. Kind of important. Nah, I guess, I mean, it's not all that important, but here, we'll kind of pull this in. All right. Yeah, so I gotta fix it here. Hold on. All right. Optimals from Martinsville. Willie B started in the pole, finished in first, led 304 laps. Like I said, it was going to take 2 dominators. I just didn't expect Ryan Blaney to come from the back and be one of those dominators. Other than I knew Ryan Blaney would be very, very fast here. But he just couldn't quite couldn't pull off the win to lock in his spot into the Final Four. I mean, I like Ryan Blaney. I don't have any problems with Ryan Blaney, but I'm kind of glad there is no Penske affiliated car in the final round. I'll just kind of say that. But either way, Ryan Blaney with, a huge place differential and leading 177 laps. Still not enough to overtake the Willie B 304 laps led. Ryan Preece, like I said, always runs good at Martinsville and went from 18th to 6th. He was definitely one of my picks. Todd Gillen, good finish for Todd Gillen. Not one of his stronger tracks typically, but from 16th to 9th. Chase Elliott with a solid third place run. And Justin Haley, I didn't see this one coming, but it kind of fit because it was a $5,100. Still had $600 left in the optimal lineup, but kind of played out fairly similar to what I thought it would. I just didn't have everybody lined up just right. But either way, I didn't have the Todd Gillen or the Justin Haley in many lineups, but the Justin Haley definitely played. The optimal lineup challenge, all locked up. Chase Elliott takes it down. There's nobody can catch him. We only have one race left, but congrats to Chase Elliott on getting 13 of 35 optimal lineups. We still got the one race tomorrow. I'm not sure Chase Elliott makes the optimal lineup tomorrow. Phoenix is not one of his most significant tracks. So, but either way, that is the optimal lineup challenge, and Chase Elliott takes it down. What's up, Daniel? Appreciate you tuning in for the final show of the season, final race at Phoenix, championship weekend. I tell you what, so far the two championship races have not disappointed in the truck and Xfinity. Definitely did not have Jesse Love, other than I did have Jesse Love potentially winning after I looked at the practice speeds from the Xfinity practice. But Corey Heim was just way too strong in the trucks all year. I kind of had a feeling that was pretty much a shoe-in. I was kind of hoping to see Zilich take the title, but it was pretty cool to see Jesse Love get that win. I always liked Allgaier, but he won last year, so he'll come back next year, and maybe he'll get one next year. And I thought Quapple was kind of an outside shot, and glad that he made the finals because it gave him a full-time ride for next year. But we're talking about Cup racing, and let's talk about the championship weekend for the Cup teams. All right, we are at Phoenix. It is a short, kind of flat track. It's not as flat as all the short tracks, but it's not as banked as, a Phoenix. As a Bristol or Dover or Darlington type, but it's a unique track. It's got really long sweeping turns. Going into turn 3's actually quite sharp. Coming often into turn 1 from the start finish line is kind of unique. It's just a unique racetrack. It's kind of cool. There's nothing else like it on the circuit. Richmond is somewhat similar at times. Races kind of similar, tires kind of fall off the banking's similar, but it's just still with the dog leg that they've got here at Phoenix, it's just so unique. It doesn't always tend to put on the best racing, but I think with this new tire combination that they've got, I think it could actually end up being quite unique. So this should be this should be a pretty fun championship race this year. Like I said, I'm going to cough a little bit tonight. Track comparisons: Richmond, Martinsville, Phoenix, Nashville. You can put Iowa in there. You could, there's just Gateway you can kind of put. You need the flatter style tracks, but Richmond's probably the most close to what Phoenix is. They're close in length. The banking's about the same. So, but the funny thing is, Austin Dillon, who's so good at Richmond, doesn't typically do as well at Phoenix. So they definitely are unique. Our optimal lineups from the previous 4 Phoenix races. This is kind of the important part that we always kind of look at to kind of give us a gauge on who and how many points we need to be kind of targeting to make the optimal lineup, or at least be in contention. Because what we're really trying to do is, like I've said all year so far, is we want to whittle down the 38 starters, the 38 choices we have, and whittle it down to about really a core 15 and then a sub-core of 7 drivers after that. So whittling it down from 38 to 22. So let's eliminate 14 drivers that we don't even need to worry about. Then we can go from there and go, who are the core drivers and who aren't the core drivers? And, with our practice, we had a long practice. We had a 50-minute practice session, and they had 4 sets of Goodyear tires. And let me tell you, the data that is out there for these teams is all over the place. You had drivers that were setting up for long runs, short runs. They were setting up for qualifying laps. They were setting up for pit road entries. It was insane to try to parse through all the data that was out there and figure out exactly what might be their race setup and what might not be their race setup. I mean, I love all the data, and I think it's great, and it's going to probably be very beneficial. But trying to parse through what's there is a little tough. I couldn't even imagine what it would have been like, 6, 7, 8 years ago when they had a Friday practice, a Saturday morning practice, a Saturday afternoon happy hour practice, and then qualifying. And each one of those practices were an hour in length. And having all that data would be mind-boggling, to say the least. So I like the 50-minute session. I like having the extra tires because then you can see a couple different setups potentially. I mean, without actually being, there in somebody's pit crew, it's hard to really know what they're setting up for, but the lap times can kind of give us an indication. And we'll get into that. But either way, optimal lineups from the previous races. Now, this race also, because one race is a regular race at the beginning of the year, it's just a regular points race. Then we have the final race of the year, which is the championship race. And it becomes very unique because who wants to go and potentially mess up one of the final 4 drivers by racing with them? What's up, Lost Profit? Glad you made it in for the final show of the year. We're just kind of getting started, and we're talking about these optimal lineups and the difference between a spring Phoenix race and a finale Phoenix race. And yes, same track, same distance, same all the things, but they get run completely different because you've got 4 drivers going for a championship, and you've got the other 32 to 34 drivers racing there also that don't want to interfere with the final 4. But then you've got drivers like Ross Chastain last year was like, screw it, I'm going to go win the race. And just, went out and won the race. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I guess Joe Logano won last year. It was 23 when Ryan Blaney finished second to Ross Chastain's finishing first. But typically, one of the final 4 drivers typically ends up winning the race. I mean, Jesse Love won the Xfinity race earlier tonight. I've got to start getting used to saying the O'Reilly Auto Parts. It'll probably just be the O'Reilly series. I'm probably going to say the Auto Parts. Or the Craftsman Truck Series. The Truck Series was Corey Heim, who won the race. So more than likely, the champion is going to be one of the final... The winner of the race will probably be one of the final 4 guys. Because typically, I'm trying to think who... Austin Cindric's probably not going to go up and try to mess with the final 4 drivers just to get a win. So, but he might, though. I mean, these drivers are kind of unique. Lost Profit, glad to see Jesse Love win it and won you some money. All right. Did you actually bet it straight up, or did you... was it in part of one of your DraftKings lineups? I actually took down the Chrome Horn on Friday night in the Truck Series. winning $600. So that was a big plus to start my weekend, and I was about $10 shy from breaking even tonight. So yeah, that's great that Jesse Love won you some money. Let's see if we can figure out how to win you some more. You had a parlay for a previous Larson win and Love winning the championship. Really? I bet you that actually had probably pretty good odds in it, so you probably did pretty well. You had a previous, like a Larson, like winning a race and a Jesse Love. That's a crazy parlay. Yeah, that definitely probably won you some money because that's a nutty type of parlay. But good for you. Don't donate it all back tomorrow. Uh, take some of it to the bank and go buy yourself something nice. Either way, Phoenix previous. So, and that's the biggest difference I was just talking about was the spring race and the fall race just get run differently. So it changes the sometimes kind of the parameters, but sometimes not. It's unique, and you just have to be aware of the uniqueness of what the championship race does to the mentality of the other drivers. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still there. And it's something that you kind of have to put in your thinking cap when you're building lineups tomorrow is like, you know, uh, like an Austin Cindric is starting, I can't remember where Austin Cindric's starting. We'll get to him though, but he's starting in the top 10. He, you know, unless he just happens to get out front because of a pit strategy or whatever, he's not going to go and try to pull off a crazy move to try to go get the lead that might end up wrecking a Larson or a Hamlin or something like that. He's going to be satisfied running in second or third and not screwing someone else's race up. So it's just something to be aware of when you're building lineups. Not that some of these drivers aren't you don't want to absolutely fade somebody just because you have that thought process, but it is a thought process of it potentially takes away from some of the potential dominators. So with that being said, um, so the spring race, 62.2 points or 62 points was kind of where our cutoff line for the expensive drivers was, but then it jumps all the way to 94 points for the fall race or the championship race last year. And once again, we're looking at 1 to 2 dominators. This is going to be a very similar style build to what we had last week at Martinsville and any of the races, Bristol, same type of thing. You're looking at probably 2 dominators, at least 3 place differentials, and then either maybe another additional, maybe not dominator, but somebody who starts in the top 10 and finishes in the top 10, or a 4th place differential guy. So that's kind of how these builds end up kind of taking shape. Sorry about that. Spring of 2024, we didn't have any dominators. It was quite spread out very evenly. I can't remember why that was. I think because the tires just didn't wear, and it was just who came off a pit road first kept the lead and led however many laps that run was. But I haven't gone back to look at the spring 24 race, but the fall 2023 race, once again, 2 dominators. Ross Chastain, like I said earlier, was not in the Final Four championship and started 8th and finished first and led 157 laps. Willie B was in the Final Four with Ryan Blaney, and Ryan Blaney only led 2 laps, but won the championship that year. And Willie B led 95 and ended up having something happen on the pit road, or I can't remember what happened for the fall 23 race, other than Ross Chastain battling with Ryan Blaney for a lot of that race and not letting Ryan Blaney win was, I know, somewhat of a controversy, but I mean, good for Ross Chastain. If you got the faster car, go win. But either way, once again, 74, 71. So we're kind of looking at this 70-point threshold for the higher priced drivers. So kind of $10,000 and up. We kind of need to get to that 65, 70-point threshold for them to be in the optimal lineup. That doesn't mean that, if all of a sudden we're running the scenario on the calculator and Ryan Blaney is going to have, we think he might get 58 points. Well, 58 points is definitely a solid play. And that could be maybe not the dominator, but that could be the third of the three expensive drivers that ends up making the lineup, depending on how lineup construction ends up falling. So when I say the high priced drivers need to get to 65, 70 points to be in the potential optimal, that doesn't mean that we don't have other drivers that we think potentially could, because I mean, you don't ever really know until the race gets over. Does Hamlin end up dominating? Does Larson end up dominating? Does Blaney end up dominating? We've got about 5 or 6 drivers that we need to probably pick for the dominators, and we'll just run them in different lineups with different drivers, and that's just kind of how I build things. But for the top 15 in Draftkings points, it ends up being about 33 points. And where do the most drivers start and make the top 15 in points? Well, this is a very hard track to get track position. A lot of it is done on pit road. It's very, very tough to pass. Now, we may have a very unique race tomorrow because the left side tire is for some reason, it's wearing extremely quickly. And we saw a lot of tire failure in practice. Now, the drivers or the crew chiefs will make adjustments before the race, so mostly air pressure adjustments. So we probably won't see as significant tire failures tomorrow during the race, but the tires were still wearing and the speeds were pretty significant. Even on a 10 to 15 lap run, we were seeing almost a full second fall off within 10 laps. And I think Ryan Blaney may have been the only driver that I saw that ended up doing like a 20 lap run, and it was almost a full second and a half fall off. So caution comes out. These guys are definitely coming in for tires, which will lead to the opportunity for movement through the field. And, if somebody doesn't, what was it? Michael McDowell last week at Martinsville, we had an early caution and he either got 2 tires or no tires or something. And, he only had like 20 lap old tires and pretty much fell a lap down because he didn't take tires within like 20 laps. So the bad call on his crew chief, but we're going to see something very similar to that tomorrow. If caution comes out, they're going to need to come in and get tires or just have the realization that if they have any significant long green flag run, they potentially go a lap down to somebody who did change tires. But so the majority of the top 15 in points in DraftKings come from 5 spots in the top 10. So half of the top 10 take up 5 spots. 4.8 or almost another 5 come from 11 through 20. So literally 10 of your 15 come from the starting spots of 20th or better. And then 3.6 from 21 to 30. And we're only seeing 1.2 drivers from 31st or worse make the top 15, much less make the optimal. So let's go back and look at the optimals again and see nobody. So in the spring race, we had a lot. We had 2 drivers that started in the 30s made the optimal lineup, 2 drivers in the 20s, 1 driver in the top 10, and 1 from 11 through 20. Then the fall race last year, we had 2 drivers in the 30s, 2 drivers in the 20s, nobody in the teens, but 2 drivers starting in the top 10. But then the spring 24 race, 3 drivers starting in the top 10, 2 drivers starting 11th and 13th, and only 1 driver starting 29th. Nobody in the 30s. And kind of the same thing in the fall of 23, we had 3 drivers that started in the top 10, 2 other drivers that started in the top 20, and only 1 driver all the way back in 34th, which was a $5,000 JJ Yaley. So it's kind of unique to kind of go back and really kind of see where these points are coming from and how difficult it is to actually make up place differential. Like I said, with this tire fall off and tire issues that we saw in practice, we could see more opportunity for place differential than pure dominator type points. Because honestly, looking at the times, I don't see how people end up dominating. Kind of like at Martinsville last week. One of the unique things was Bradley Herbst had an early issue, went a couple laps down, but had to come in and get tires. So he was off sequence with everyone else. And when he was on the fresh new tires and everybody else was on the old tires, he ended up with like 30 fast laps for the race. It was crazy to see Bradley. I was like, how did Bradley Herbst end up with so many Draftkings points? Oh, he had like 30 or 35 fast laps. Well, it's almost a half point per fast lap. So, I mean, right there was almost 15 points, and I think he had a little bit of place differential. He didn't make the optimal last week, but he was in the top 15 in point getters. And I was like, that's crazy. How did he do that? Daniel says, would be great to profit and make good money on the last slate and really only profit. Oh, no, you haven't made any profit all season? Oh, that sucks. I think I might be break even. I ended up getting a first in Talladega also. It wasn't in the Chrome Horn, but it was in one of the bigger tournaments. So that brought me back to probably to par, and then the truck race a couple days ago probably put me above par. So hopefully, yeah, let's get you a win. I haven't played much, not trying to put that Pat Choo-Choo on Denny. Yeah, I get you. No, oh wow, the Dodgers just hit a home run. They are 1 run away from Toronto. All right, 3-4, top of the 8th. So I'm not sure I really have a dog in the hunt. Dodgers won it last year, so I kind of want Toronto to win this year. I'm kind of glad it's gone to 7. Makes it fun, makes it interesting. Game 7 moments always make it kind of cool. But yeah, I want. So I think my first pick to win is probably Denny. I want to see Denny win it. And that way we can just be done with that scenario. And, his dad can see him win it, and it would be emotional and be all those cool things. My second pick, of course, would be Larson. Third would be Byron. And I just don't think Briscoe deserves it yet this year. I don't have a problem with Briscoe. I don't dislike Briscoe. I just don't. He hasn't put the body of work together to have the championship. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Jesse Love earlier. Zilich should have won that championship. And, that'll be one of the big talking points. But I think Jesse Love is a fine champion for the Xfinity Series. Daniel says, I don't know why my name isn't D Pope. Yeah, I don't know on here anymore, but it's... Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know why that changed. That's weird. Yeah, the picture's still the same. Maybe when down with these, she turns 1. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, time does fly. Mine's 14 going on 15, and yeah, time definitely flies. You're calling the Denny Hamlin retirement if he wins. Well, he's going to have to talk to Joe about that because he is under contract for another year. I think if he wins, he will take next year as a um, uh, one last hurrah around. What's up? Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, let's go, Denny. Let's get Denny this championship, and we can let him have a year of celebration and then retirement. And I still think it would be really, really funny if he can win the championship and then have the trial happen on December 1st and have him have 2311 in front row also win that. Now that would be really funny. I'd be happy for any of the four, but it hits different for Denny. I don't want him to win. But then the 5, 19, then 24. Okay. So definitely not a Byron fan, huh? How many championships does Joe Gibbs Racing have at the Cup level? Right offhand, you've got 2 with Kyle Busch. 1 with Martin Truex Jr. So 3. Trying to think if you'd have to go back. That's 3 that I could think of right offhand. I don't know. See if one of the AIs knows really quickly. How many NASCAR championships does Joe Gibbs Racing team have? Can you repeat that again? 5. All right, so they have 5. So I still have my Bluetooth connected, so but yeah, so 5. I believe if Denny wins, Joe will wave. No, I don't think so. I don't think Denny actually quits. I think he announces a retirement. But I think he goes on a 1-year celebration tour. That's just my personal opinion. Guess is, I thought it was really cool when Tony Stewart, kind of did his, final, season. When Dale Jr. did his final season, yeah, they went to all the tracks and they celebrated and they got cool gifts and they made a big hoopla out of it. And I think it'd be cool for Denny to do that, and I think he would probably do that. But he could. I mean, and that, yes. Do I think Joe Gibbs would let him out of his contract? Absolutely. And there are more than enough talented drivers out there for Denny for a replacement. I mean, Corey Heim does not have a full-time ride next year. Corey Heim won the truck championship in dominating fashion and does not have a full-time ride for next year. That's insane. I'm not sure how that actually ended up happening. Other than I know he's going to race quite a few races at 2311. I honestly think that Riley Herbst probably gets kicked to the curb and Corey Heim ends up taking that spot. Heim from 11 to 11. Yeah. I mean, Denny has Corey Heim under contract. Or, well, take that back. 2311 has Heim under contract. My guess is if Denny races full-time next year, he definitely won't swap the 11, but I would think maybe Heim would go to the 35, or you could potentially see a trade happen if Denny does win. Maybe Denny races the 35 for his own team, and they trade Heim to Joe Gibbs Racing. I don't know. There's lots of scenarios and options, but maybe I'll come and do we'll do a special podcast in the middle of the winter and talk about all the fun stuff. I always like Eric Essery. Eric, I can't remember what Eric's last name is. He does the YouTube channel. I can't remember what his YouTube channel is now. I watch it almost every time it comes on, but he's always really good with information and kind of details. So I've always thought about doing a show kind of like his, but he does such a great job. I don't need to go and do it. I'll stay in my lane. How's that? Out of the groove. Yes. Yeah. And he does a great job with it. And he's built that from literally scratch. I think I started following him probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I think it was like 2 or 3 thousand people that were subscribed to him. It was crazy. Yeah, and he's doing this car because it was quiet. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I'm happy to see him make the progress that he's made. I'm develops in 2311 and then switches over, and now 2311 turns into JRM at the cup level. Yeah, I mean 2311. What? Why is my AI still listening to me? Stop it, Grok. She was talking in my earpiece. Yeah, I mean, so I can see Denny and Joe Gibbs have a deal, and 2311 keeps a third car to create a farm system, sending guys to JGR. I mean, that's absolutely what has happened. Because you can actually really look at the partnership that Hendrick has. So Hendrick, on the cup level, Hendrick's got his 4 teams, and then they have a very, very close partnership with Spire. And that's all kind of in the background. But then on the Xfinity side, Hendrick and Junior have an extremely close relationship. In fact, Hendrick quietly owns, or doesn't own, but is part owner of Junior Motorsports, and that's why we saw a Hendrick style car that Justin Haley raced at Daytona earlier this year. That's why the 17 Xfinity car is pretty much all run by Junior Motorsports, but it's Hendrick drivers. They're huge, close partnership. Redeemed NASCAR fan points. Got a signed Hamlin hat too. It's all white, and I'm scared to wear it. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, if it's a signed hat, I wouldn't wear it. I mean, I've got a ton of Mark Martin signed stuff, and my wife's got a Kevin Harvick hat that's signed by him. Yeah, they don't get worn. They get put on the shelf. In fact, it was, God, what year was that? I mean, I'll have to pull that picture out at some point and show you guys. I ended up, when I used to run Outbacks, the Budweiser distributor knew I was a big NASCAR fan, invited us to go, and had pit road passes. Well, like 2 days before, he goes, "Hey, do you want to meet the drivers?" I said, "That'd be awesome, yeah." And he goes, "Sweet." And I showed up, and he's like, "What size jacket do you wear?" I was like, "A large." He was like, "Cool. Put this on." And I was like, "Sweet, it's a Busch beer jacket." He goes, "Yeah, it's the Busch Polo Award jacket. You're going to give away the Busch Polo Award away." So I got to go on stage and give Rusty Wallace the Busch Polo Award away at Martinsville one year. That was wild. So, but I've got that jacket, and signed by Earnhardt. It's signed by Rusty. It's signed by Mark Martin. Yeah, and as soon as I got home, that thing literally went into a plastic sleeve and has only probably seen the light of day twice. But yeah. All right, let's get into this. We're 39 minutes in, and we haven't even started talking about drivers. So, Denny Hamlin, $12,000 from the pole. Yeah, he was super pumped. I've never seen him get that pumped up for winning a pole before. I mean, fist pump like Tiger Woods, yes, type of excitement. So good for Denny for getting the pole. I mean, he was actually pretty decent in practice. Did a ton of laps, 65 laps. I think he was maybe one of the only, well, the 2311 drivers, the two main 2311 drivers didn't have an issue in practice. 35 did. But all the other Joe Gibbs cars had issues in practice except for Denny Hamlin. So lucky for Denny, he didn't have an issue or problem because he ended up getting the pole and had actually pretty good practice speeds. He was 5th in single lap, 65 total laps. And this is where it gets really, really wonky on practice. Most drivers did do a 10-lap consecutive run, but barely. Very few had 15 or 20-lap runs. I think there was only like 4 drivers who did a 20-lap run. And they were all running 60-plus laps because they had 4 sets of tires. They could come in, make adjustments, go out and try a different little bit of setup with air pressure or whatever. And yeah, the lap times are all over the place. It was wild. Wait do you see this next page? But Denny Hamlin history at Phoenix does not have a win in the last 5 races, but he does have 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 15.8 average finish, 7.8 average running position. He finished 2nd in the spring race here. 40 total starts here at Phoenix with 2 wins, 17 top 5s, 22 top 10s. So half the time he's finishing in the top 10, and 33 top 20s with a 10.4 average finish. 6 total wins on the season. He's in the final 4. All right, let's look at these practice speeds. This is like watching a spaghetti model of hurricane season. So these are the 4 championship drivers and the average. So the average is the white line as normal. And we're starting off just a tick under 28 seconds, so 27.9. And over the course of 41 laps, and this is where it gets really wonky, because this average I finally looked at all the lap times, and it just got really, really screwy. So just a little under 28 seconds to almost 29 seconds. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Because as you can see, these guys go out, they run 10 laps, and then all of a sudden their speed goes all the way back down again. This is where they made a tire change, an adjustment. They go back out, they're fast, then they go slow, and then they come back in, and they go slow again. So what I finally did was I went through all of the practice times and looked at when these drop-offs or when these time differences really happened. And I could also see on the spreadsheet that they made a pit stop. So, and they would come back out and they would have a longer run. So what I did was I literally went and looked at everyone's final long run. So a long run was somewhere between 8 to 20 laps. Some people only did like 8, some people did like 20 laps. So this is more of what I kind of saw. So William Byron did 26 laps on his final run. He is the black line here. So of course, once again, the average is the white. All 4 drivers were under the average, which expected. They're the championship 4, they should be. But out of the championship 4, Briscoe and Byron fired off the fastest. Now, Briscoe, because of his issues and problems in practice, he blew a left rear tire within like 10 laps of practice to start, which screwed up the undercarriage and spoiler. So they had to work on it for most of practice. So I think what they did was they finally got everything repaired to where they could go make a qualifying run. And that's all they practiced for, was a qualifying run, because he only did 7 laps. So his times you can kind of throw out the window on what his speed was, but he was fast in that little bit of speed run. But Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin both fired off at about the same, almost about the average, and kind of follow the average all the way to about lap 10, and then they get much better by, I don't know, half a second, 2/10, 3/10 of a second faster. And that holds true until finally William Byron's times kind of come back down and are a little bit faster than average. But even Kyle Larson, still on the long run, the Hendrick guys were faster. The short run, the Joe Gibbs guys were faster. So Hamlin and Briscoe, well, Briscoe's out. His practice speeds were all wonky because of his tire issue. But Hamlin was quick on the fire-off speed, and he wasn't bad on long-run speed, don't get me wrong. But Larson and Byron had better long-run speed than Hamlin. So this gets a little bit easier to kind of look at when we get past the championship 4 guys and into just the single cars. Because I don't have the full spaghetti model, but I kind of wanted to see who potentially of the championship 4 do we want to potentially use as a dominator, because that's really honestly who probably is going to end up dominating these things, and that's typically how it ends up happening. I mean, the Xfinity race, it was Jesse Love dominated for a while, Allgaier dominated for a while, Zilich dominated for a while, so that was kind of spread out throughout all 3. But so yeah, all right, so back to what we talked about earlier. So it's really honestly probably about 65 points instead of 60. And I think it's more like 33. So 65 points starting from the pole. That gets real tough. You can't finish much off of probably 3rd place. So with these championship drivers, you have to kind of build the lineups around the driver that you think is going to win the championship. And I don't recommend building 20 lineups around Denny Hamlin winning the championship, because if Denny Hamlin happens to have an issue or problem, doesn't win the championship, all of your lineups are screwed. So, depending on how many you run, even if you only run 3 or 4 lineups, and you think Denny Hamlin's going to win it, if you're running 3, I would run 2 lineups with Denny, and then I'd pick somebody else. So I would not go all in. I mean, it's kind of like running the stock market. You don't buy all of your money into one stock, because if that one stock drops, you lose all your money. Same type thing. You get it. So when you build the lineup, you have to build it around Denny Hamlin probably winning the championship. Would you run him in a single entry? Absolutely. Yeah, I would run. Well, this goes back to, you can. So in the truck race, you were able to have 2 of the top guys in your lineup. And 4 drivers. You had 2 guys starting in the top 5 or top 10. I think's what I won in Draftkings. I can pull that up. What my winning lineup was for Friday night. Usually on Monday or Tuesday, I go through and update all of my spreadsheets. Let's go look. Yeah, let's find the trucks. Chrome Horn that I won. And I won by like 9 points. It was crazy. Yeah, so you had Corey Heim and Ty Majeski. Both were probably considered dominators that ended up winning the tournament for me. And that's what I'm kind of, what I think what you're kind of saying also is, I think you can run a Denny and a Larson, but at that point you're now going to have to run, like, I mean, this lineup had Bird at 5,500, Boyd at 5,800, Mills at 6,200, and Garcia at 7,500 for it to fit. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say is, you can make this work by running 2 expensive guys, but it gets real tough. You've got to run. I mean, this is 3 cheap guys that would probably almost never make the optimal. Do I use my own projections and ownership, or just hand build? I do a pseudo hand build. So when I build my lineups, I'll show you kind of what I start with. Where's my lineup setup? So my truck lineup kind of looks like this. And it's kind of hard to really tell, but so I start with this, and this fills in through the 20 different lineups. Yeah, so this has got the 20 lineups all the way across. Actually, it's got 40. But it's my starting point. So like who I think who's going to be my number one pick was Corey Heim. And that's I know that because I put this little number over here. But so when I take Corey Heim off here, it disappears from all these other ones. So when I come in and I put Corey Heim into here, it fills in all of those spots automatically. And I've spent the last 3 years kind of building this pseudo template on, and by running Corey Heim over here, I think it ends up putting him in like 18 of 40 lineups. So almost 50% of my lineups would have Corey Heim in it. And that's what I say when I'm talking about when I say I'm going to run somebody 40 to 50%, that's typically I'm going to put them in the number 1, number 2, or number 3 spot. And that's how that ends up kind of, that's the spot I know to put them in. And then the guys that I know that I'm going to run 25 to 30%, I'll put them in the 5, 6, 7 spot, and so on. Yeah, I mean, maybe during the off season, if I get time, I've got a huge construction project that I'm working on in my attic that I have to get done this winter. Or I might actually do a video on how to set that up, and you could set that up yourself. Because then what you have is you've got 20, 30, 40 lineups that are not fully done. You have 1 to 2 spots that you've got to fill in yourself. And that's what I talk about, that core 15 drivers. So my core 15 drivers are those 15 drivers that I put into there. And it's not that I can't put another one of those core persons into the empty spot, or I might actually take one of my sub-core and put it into the empty spot, depending on how it ends up fitting in. And then that gives me my 20 to 40 lineups. So it's actually not that hard to do. I'll see if I can do a video one night and you can just go back and reference it. But so how does Denny Hamlin end up being in the potential optimal spot? Well, starting in first, finishing in third gets you to 58 points. That's 40 laps led, 20 fast laps. Our stages for tomorrow are as 60, 125, and 127. So the first stage is really short. I still honestly think that they'll probably have to come and get tires in those 60 laps. Yep, Otani on deck, looking all serious. Nobody on, 1 out. Top of the ninth, 2-1. Let's see. Well, you also have we're at the top of the ninth, so Toronto will get a chance to bat if Otani or the Dodgers happen to tie it up or get ahead. So with Denny Hamlin having the pole, he was actually pretty quick in practice, so I think he has the potential to hold on to the lead for the first stage, or at least for the first 30 laps. And because he's got the preferred pits stall, which is the very first one right off of pit road, he probably is going to be able to hold on to the lead and probably at least get to the 60. And we're going to call the fast laps a 2-for-1. So if he's going to lead 60, he potentially could have 30 fast laps. Well, that even if he goes and falls to third, that puts him with enough points by leading 60 laps to be in the optimal. Now, if he falls to 10th, it does not. If he happens to win it, it's 73. So, once again, I don't mind having Denny as one of my optimals because I also think, am I that far behind? They hit a home run? Yep. Holy smokes. We're tied ball game. Wow, with a tiny end deck. Jess, are you watching? My wife's not happy, I don't think. Yep. Yeah, Daniel, you're ahead of me. No, well. All right. Yep, new ball game. With Otani up next. Oh, goodness. That's crazy. All right. So, once again, you're back to does Denny Hamlin. If you think Denny Hamlin's going to win or at least have a top 5 and lead 60 laps, then he's definitely in play. And he can be in play with another one of the championship Ford drivers. My bad, I'll be quiet. No, you're not that far ahead. Like just now, Otani just got out. So if that lets you know how far ahead you are, you're like 30 seconds ahead. Not a big deal. Kyle Larson. So that's Denny. I think Denny's definitely in play. Yeah, you just got to pick and choose how you spend your money. I mean, pulled out. Corey Heim was $14,000, and I was able to make him fit into almost an optimal lineup. So I don't think I nailed the optimal. I think there was something better. I won't know until Monday when I break it all down. But same thing here with Kyle Larson, 11,500, starting in third. Really, really good in practice. If we look at his averages here, he's got 4 top 5s in the last 5 races at Phoenix. Super consistent. 13.6 average finish. So 7.5 average running position. Finished third in the spring. He does have 1 win here. That's when he won his championships. His 1 championship. 10.6 average finish. He's been super consistent over the last 5 or 6 races, and when they kind of get into this whole thought process, they typically kind of go on a string of them. So I expect Kyle Larson to have a very, very solid race. And we've looked at these 2 charts. They're the same as Denny's was. Super really good, consistent long run speed. I don't know what his tires look like after the 20 laps or so. Oh, and Tennessee's going to try to make a comeback here too. All right, we got lots of sporting games coming down to the wire here. You're going to be under the field on Hamlin, I bet. You usually don't like taking drivers on the pole. Correct. I don't. I honestly, my guess would be Denny's probably going to be 40 to 45% owned. And I might be even with the field. I don't think I'll be over. The only time I don't mind taking the pole sitter are drivers like a Kyle Larson at Las Vegas. I mean, if Ryan Blaney were sitting on the pole for this race, Ryan Blaney and Penske have been very, very good at this racetrack. Just like if Ryan Blaney were on the pole for Martinsville, I wouldn't have a problem. Last week, I had no problem putting William Byron in a lot of my lineups, and he had the pole. Because I also thought that he was going to go out and lead probably 200 laps. Yeah, they're going to need the onside kick. Yeah, they didn't need to go for 2, so just kick the... Yep, so they'll have to get the onside kick here. They've got 2 timeouts, so there is a potential they could potentially... Well, I don't think there's enough time. I'm going to get on a cough drop so I don't start a coughing spree on everybody. Can we fade Denny? He still wins a championship, but not optimal. That would mean by default that Larson isn't optimal unless he leads a bunch and finishes right behind Denny. No. So just like we saw with my truck race lineup, you had Ty Majeski, who was in the championship hunt with Corey Heim. They finished first and second. They both started inside the top 10. They just both led a ton of laps. So do I think Hamlin will be 50% owned? And it's really tough to get to 50% ownership now. I haven't seen a 50% ownership in the Cup Series for a while. Oh, Oklahoma's just going to... Oh, he scored the touchdown. He got all the way down to the 1, a half-yard line, and sat on it. I think he went across the goal line. That's dumb. Why did he wait all the way to there? Nope. I mean, the ball may have crossed. Oh, that ball's on the line. That's a touchdown. Which would give Tennessee the... Yeah, that's a touchdown. What a dummy. He could just easily sat down on the 2-yard line. Oh, these football players. All right, back to racing. Oh, yeah. No, he's still a giant. He's not as big as Big Poppy, but he's pretty big. He does look a little leaner than he used to, but he's still big. All right. So back to your question. Yes. So how does that end up playing? So Denny Hamlin goes and leads 60 laps, but you say he doesn't win the championship, but he still wins the championship. So let's say Denny finishes in second, but wins the championship, but leads 60 laps and has 30 fast laps and gets 69.5 points. All right, Kyle Larson, starting in third, does the same thing. Leads 60 laps, 30 fast laps, and finishes in third. Misses the championship by 1 spot to Denny. And let's say, right, let's just use the imaginary person of Ryan Blaney ends up winning the race. Like I said, wouldn't be too out of the question. But you've got a 69.5 for Larson and a 69.5 for Denny Hamlin. They both gained 1 spot, and they both end up with almost 70 points. So now you've used up $23,500 of your salary cap. So you definitely can't go and take Ryan Blaney from the poll. You know, it makes it's tough to get that. I'm shocked that Oklahoma just scored the touchdown. That gives them another chance for an onside kick. That's interesting. All right, Toronto, can they come back here? All right, so yeah, yes, you can absolutely run 2 of the 4 championship contenders. I don't think you can run 3. I just don't think the math will end up working out to pull that. But I mean, I guess you could have a William Byron starting in second do the same thing. 60, 60, 120, that's 180. There's plenty of laps available. But I don't think there's room to play that. Let's see. Let's pull a lineup over. So Larson, Byron. Yeah, I mean you're down to 5,100 average salary left over. And I mean, what are we gonna do here? We're gonna run Herbst, Ty Dillon. I guess you don't have to go that far down. Ty Dillon, Cole Custer, and Justin Haley. But now we've really put ourselves in a corner here to where Hamlin, Larson, and Byron all have to lead like 60 to 80 laps. And Custer, Dillon, and Haley would have to make it up into the teens. It's just we're asking for way too many crazy variables to happen. Can it happen? Sure. Will it happen? Probably not. The chances are, let's go ahead and pick who the 2027 NASCAR champion is going to be. Put Shane Van Gisbergen for the 2027 championship. Is it possible? Sure. Do you honestly really think that's going to happen? Probably not. So William Byron. So we already finished. We said who second and third were Denny, and everybody falls back a couple spots here. Fourth, I don't know. Whatever. Let's go back to William Byron. That's a crazy scenario to think about. And probably won't happen. So you can take 2 of the 4 championship drivers and put them in lineups, and it's fine. You can also just run 1. I'm not saying go and run 2. But more than likely, at least 3 of the championship drivers will all finish in the top 10. And honestly, I think Briscoe's the one that potentially is going to be out. I mean, Christopher Bell has had issues in the championship race plenty of times. Blew a brake rotor 2 years ago or something, and the year prior to that did something else. Byron's had issues, so I think Briscoe just might. But Briscoe also could be the one that ends up winning the championship. I've seen crazier things happen with him. When you think he's down and out, he comes back with a vengeance. William Byron, $11,000. Starting in second. Willie B's practice speeds were really good. He's got a win here in Phoenix in the last 5 races. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. Scrubs could work if you think it gets wild at the end. Yeah, but you're also saying that it gets wild at the end, and William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson all finish in the top 4. If it gets wild at the end, not all 3 of them are not going to be finishing in the top 4. That's the problem. Is if it gets wild, which could happen, I don't think all 3 of them survive. So, that's where it becomes the percentages just get crazy by thinking that the 3 of them are going to be the 3 that survive. It just it's off the chart for percentages at that point. All right, William Byron, $11,000, starting in second. He was 9th in single lap practice, 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average. I think Willie B probably, along with Kyle Larson, were the 2 best cars in practice. Denny Hamlin was probably a solid 3rd. So the top 3 guys were all probably the best 3 in practice. And Willie B's the only one to win in the last 5 races in the next gen era at Phoenix. He finished 6th in the spring, so all of them have finished well recently. All of them. This average finish is not right. He doesn't have a 23.6 average finish. I don't know why that's so screwed up. He's got a 10.8 average finish over the last 15 races here. These charts are the same as what we've already looked at, and Willie B's the one in black here. And fire off speed was the fastest. He was fastest almost all throughout practice, and even at the tail end, he still was faster than the average at lap 25. So if he can get himself out front, holy smokes, Tennessee just scored another touchdown, I think. Is that right? Another, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, when you're going to build these lineups, you just kind of have to build the majority of your lineups with, okay, this lineup is going to be the Willie Byron. Willie Byron wins the championship and dominates. Who do you pair him up with? Sure, you can still put him with a Larson or a Hamlin. It's yeah, this is a hard week. And that's why I say it gets really, really difficult. And they kicked the field goals. What they did, I think. I'm out. It does make it difficult, but as long as you know what you're having to do when you get into building these lineups, it's not as difficult as you think. Now, winning DraftKings and NASCAR is probably the hardest fantasy sport to do. And now we're throwing a championship mix into it. Just throws another wrinkle into it. That's all it does. I mean, the nice thing is we're probably pretty sure that one of the 4 championship guys are going to be dominators. That part has been true ever since they had the championship race at Phoenix. And typically 2 or 3 of the 4 drivers have run extremely well, if not all 4. So, and that's held pretty much true since the playoff system started. But I mean, the numbers work out the same for Willie Byron. If you think he's going to end up winning, or let's say he does get a 4th place finish, and he leads the 60-30. 60 laps led, 30 fast laps. It's 66 points. That's enough to be in or at the optimal range zone. So if you think that's going to be the case when you build the lineup with William Byron, then you're fine. And that's honestly where I start to build a lot of these lineups. Is I'm like, which one of the 4 drivers do I think has the best chance? That's the one I'm going to put in the number 1 spot. They're going to be the 18 to 20 out of my 40 lineups. And then my next one. Question, do teams like Hendrick Motorsports pull away resources or not focus as much on their other drivers? Bowman, absolutely. In fact, I will... No, they... So, my almost guess and guarantee last week on why we saw Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe both have issues where Christopher Bell and Ty Gibbs and none of the other Toyotas had an issue last week is the same principle that you're talking about for this week. with a Bowman maybe not getting as much resources. And the same goes across all of the playoffs. Holy smokes. I completely missed this. I got bases loaded with only one out. Oh boy. We got crazy games going on all over the place. Now, Tennessee looks like they lost. Poor Tennessee. What would Ross have to do? He's been really good at Phoenix. Yeah, he's won here before. And we'll get them in 1 second. Sorry. There's just lots of sports going on and craziness. But so to answer your question, what Briscoe and Hamlin both had issues last week. They were trying something experimental. They were locked into Phoenix. They didn't have to worry about it. I guarantee that Joe Gibbs, Toyota were doing something a little bit different with that engine. And that's why they failed. Plain and simple. Denny had his 60. He was locked into the championship. Briscoe's locked into the championship. Both those cars had engine problems and failed. Nobody else did. So, but for the same thing, absolutely, for this race, Bowman and Elliott will have, one of them will have an extremely different setup. And one of them will not. Because the other thing that they're looking for in practice is, let's say Hendrick showed up to the racetrack and they had Chase running a setup that was similar to Larson and Byron. And let's say that setup was just way off. They would probably have a Bowman with a little bit more of a unique setup, that if all of a sudden Bowman was really good, they could be like, oh, let's pivot to that. So absolutely, one of either Bowman or Elliott have something experimental going on. I'm not saying they're pulling resources. They're trying things out for next year. That's why when Denny Hamlin won at Vegas, that was a huge win for Denny, because it gave him, number one, gave him 2 weeks that they didn't have to worry about racing, Dega or Martinsville. They could do experiments with their cars, but they also could spend literally the next two weeks game. Oh, we got him out. Wow. They could spend 2 weeks building the car for Martinsville for Denny. They could literally run all the simulators, run all the testing, and spec out that car to be perfectly set and done. Yes, this World Series game is nuts. That was really close. That was a really close call at home. Because he actually picks his foot up there and back down before he gets there. That's within inches of a win. Woo! I don't think there's enough there to turn it over, that's for sure. So, it came off, but it went back on before his foot hit. Just barely. Off, on, before his foot got there. I don't think there's enough to overturn the call. This would be a good view from overhead. Off, on. Yep. By literally probably 6 inches. That's crazy. All right, Ryan Blaney. So Ryan Blaney and Penske have been dominant. This was the problem. Everybody was worried about Ryan Blaney winning at Martinsville because he was going to be probably the number one spot. Yeah, it's a crazy baseball game, that's for sure. 10,700. He was second fastest in single lap. He was first fastest in 10 lap. He was extremely good in practice. No question about it. He's super good here. I don't know why my average finishes. Did he catch it? Yes, he caught it. Wow, they got out of that. 11th place average finish. He doesn't have a win here. That's the crazy thing. Oh my god, they almost killed each other. But he caught it. Oh, we get free extra baseball. So here's the long chart of all of the different practice times. And this is when I started looking at this going, how do I make heads or tails out of anything that's going on here? Because, I mean, literally, you've got Ryan Blaney. He comes out, fires off and goes 8 laps and comes in, gets tires. Then he runs from lap 9 to 25. But I don't know who to compare that to because it looks like Kyle Larson does kind of the same similar thing at lap 14 to lap 27. And the line looks pretty close, but they're not matched up at all. So I was like, how in God's creation do I end up figuring out who's actually got a fast car and who doesn't have a fast car? So that's why, and I should have left it with Larson's speed, but Willie B was probably the fastest in practice. For the last run that they had, William Byron had the fastest speed of everyone. Blaney will win just despite not being. Oh, I mean, yeah. But he'll do it cleanly, so I'm not worried about. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, you could have William Byron Ryan Blaney win this race, and you could still run. You could run Ryan Blaney and a Denny Hamlin. You can run Ryan Blaney and any of the other 4. As long as you think those other 4 are going to also dominate along with Ryan Blaney. Because Ryan Blaney's going to have to dominate starting in 5th. There's not enough place differential here for Ryan Blaney this time. But absolutely, you can run the scenario of Ryan Blaney being one of your dominators. That's not far-fetched at all. So, yeah. I mean, most of my lineups will have 2 of the probably 4 guys that we've already talked about. And then from there, it'll just start to fill in a little bit differently. But so William Byron to Ryan Blaney, William Byron is still faster across the practice, the final run and practice speeds than Ryan Blaney was. And Ryan Blaney was very good and super consistent in practice. So yeah, the 5 guys starting in the top 5, all could easily dominate, all could easily win. You just got to pick and choose which 1 or 2 you think that's going to be. So, what does Ryan Blaney at Phoenix has a 7.8 average finish over the last 5 races. I don't know why my other sheet was so messed up. But yeah, starting in 5th, somebody's setting off fireworks. At least I hope that's fireworks. And if you think Ryan Blaney's going to go in, and let's say he leads 30 laps and 15 fast laps, I think it ends up being more. I think whoever's going to win this race is probably going to lead at least 40 or 50 laps. But that still puts him to 63.25. He's definitely in contention. Any of these guys up top, you're just going to have to pick and choose which ones you like and which ones you don't. Chase Briscoe, in my honest opinion, this will end up being a sleeper pick. And the other thing is you're going to have to wait until they go to the grid tomorrow. He qualified in 12th, but I still have question marks on whether Chase Briscoe's got issues underneath his car. They were working on it all through practice. Maybe it's fixed, maybe it's not. I don't know for sure. He qualified in 12th. That's where his starting spot's going to be. And whether he starts the race there or not, that may be a last minute decision. Once again, we've looked at these practice speeds. But starting in 12th, he's going to need to get to the front. And he's got a 20.8 average finish here over the last 5 races. He does have a win here, but that was back in 2021 or 2022. It was the first year of the next gen era. And they just happened to hit on something that nobody else did. It was like the second or third race of the next gen era. So, I mean, if you think he's going to lead 40 laps, it plays. And I will have some Chase Briscoe because he does have some place differential, and he's in the championship for a reason. So I think with the flat tire and having the issues in practice, it just kind of has me a little bit worried. But it also probably means that it's probably going to worry some other people. Yeah, and he's expensive. He's $10,500. But honestly, I mean, you're only going to run 2 guys that are above $10,000 anyways. So, at least, I mean, you're not going to spend $30,000 in 3 guys and still have to field the rest of your team with $20,000. I mean, it's possible. You can do it, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever run more than 2 drivers over $10,000 in much of my lineups, or ever see it in the optimal that it hits. So yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the better plays on the table, and it's probably going to have a fair amount of ownership. And it plays really well as a different narrative of you don't actually need to have them win the race. Trying to find my remote because I want to watch this. Put this Cincinnati Utah game on. Sorry. But Bell starting in 20th, and he honestly was going into this race before they qualified. He was probably my number 1 seed. Brian Blaney was my number 2 seed. Taking out the variable of the championship 4. Christopher Bell's extremely good here. 2 wins over the last 5 races in the next gen era. 64.4 Draftkings average, an 8.9 average running position. He's extremely good at this style track. And his practice speeds, he was fast. He didn't do the longest run that he did was 15 laps. So I don't know what his long run speed ends up looking like. He fired off a little slower than William Byron, but then was right there by lap 8 with about the same lap times, and actually ended up being a little faster. So he just qualified bad. And, you know, when that happens, that's a win for us in DraftKings. So, but it's going to be a win for everybody. You know, I mean, look at his average trend over the last 5 races, excluding the Roval. He has a 4th place average finish. That's the other thing is Christopher Bell has a 4th place average finish. Larson has a 10.4 on ovals. I thought it was better than that. But yeah, it was insane. Bell outscored, I think, everyone. No, Bell had the second highest Nascar points, and Larson had first. But because Byron won and Hamlin won, Briscoe had I can't remember how it all ended up playing out, but it was crazy. I mean, Bell literally has a 4th place average finish, excluding the Roval. How do you square Hamlin and Bell's pricing? I think the pairing, I really, really like the Hamlin Bell pairing. I like the Bell pairing pretty much with any of the drivers we've talked about so far, except for probably Briscoe. Because I don't think Briscoe ends up being a dominator. But I think anybody other than Briscoe absolutely pairs extremely well with Bell. The problem is, I think that's probably going to be pretty normal. Or what do you believe more people will do trying to plug into the championship drivers? I mean, let's go back to the two optimals that we know had championship drivers, which was the fall 23 race. Well, William Byron was in that. Ryan Blaney was in that. And those were the two drivers. Those are two championship drivers, two of the four. So, yeah. Then in the last year's race, Joey Logano was a championship driver, and Christopher Bell was a championship driver. No, Bell was outside, looking in. Who else was in the championship? It was Blaney, Logano, Byron. Who was the fourth of the championship? Playoffs. Let's see. Is it going to change to the last year's? Maybe results? I'm not sure I could change it. I don't know. I don't know who the final four were last year. Oh, I do know how I could find out. We just pull last year's. Oh, Reddick. Okay. So it was Reddick and Logano, Byron, and Blaney. So fall 24, Logano was only one. But still, every year that I can remember. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Every year that I can remember, as far as I've been doing Draftkings and the playoffs have been concerned, at least one or two of the championship drivers were in the optimal lineup. So yes, I think everybody will try to plug. At least I will be trying to plug probably a championship driver into everyone. Damn, we got bases loaded again, but for the Dodgers, and they just barely got somebody out at home. This game's crazy. So, but I think Bell absolutely plays super well with it. The problem is, I think it's almost a shoo-in that everybody's going to think that. So, am I going to fade away from it? No. Will I run a lineup that will literally be Bell Larson, a next lineup that'll be Bell Hamlin, a next lineup will be Bell Blaney, even though I know he's not in the championship. So I think that could be potentially one way that none of the championship drivers, because you don't have to win the championship. Blaney did it 2 years ago by Ross winning the race. He didn't finish in first, but he still won the championship. Now, one thing we've never seen is all four drivers have real-time issues. So, but could Bell Blaney make the optimal and shut out the championship four? That's an interesting one. Bell's almost a free square. It's close. Wow. Toronto got out of that. That's crazy. Is this going to be another 18 inning night or whatever? Hopefully I'll finish my live stream by then. Joey Logano, $10,000 starting in 10th. I'm going to be just a fade off of Joey Logano. You could take him if you want. I just don't think for some reason, it just does not end up playing. You look at even this is his fastest practice speeds. And it's at best average, and he's qualifying in 10th. I understand Penske's extremely good at this track. It's hard starting in 10th for me to spend $10,000 on Joey Logano. If he had practiced super well, if he had Austin Cindric speed, Like, I don't trust Austin Cindric, but I would trust Joey Logano with Austin Cindric's speed. But the two of them don't jive. So, yeah, I'm just a fade off. I mean, even with his championships that he's won at Phoenix, it's a 15.4 average finish over the last 5 races here. Total, it's a 13.1. He's qualified in 10th. His qualifying speeds are not that good. I mean, even if we look across the full board, he's. I mean, I guess I could see the argument that there are points and times where he was faster than Blaney. He just. I mean, he's only got 1 win on the year. You can put him in the lineup if you want. I'm probably going to fade off of Joe Logano. I might run one, just to run one, but Chase Elliott next in line here at 9,500. I mean, this is not a bad play either. He's starting in 17th. His practice speeds were 6th and 20th. Now, he's not super consistent here. He's got 2 top 10s and 4 top 20s, a 12.4 average running position. He does have 1 win, 11.7 average finish. But if we look at his practice speeds, well, they're whack. They're all over the place. Now, we look at the one lap or the one run, which is his fastest. He's still not as fast as William Byron, but he's much better than average for most of it. So starting in 17th, I'm going to say this is probably a good spot for just a good, solid 7th, 8th place finish for Chase Elliott. Now, the question is that going to be enough at $9,500? I think it plays. So it's one of those, do I recommend running more than 50% of anybody? No, probably not. So do I think I'll run 40, 50% of Christopher Bell? Yeah. Well, I've got another 50 to 60% of my lineups that aren't going to have Christopher Bell, which I could put Chase Elliott in. Have him finish in 7th. He's going to need to lead some laps. He's going to need to finish 5th to get to 60 points with 20 laps led and 10 fast laps. Well, what happens if he doesn't lead any laps and only has 5 fast laps? Now he's down to 53. He needs to finish top 3. Even better than that, he needs to pretty much win to get to 60. So this is not as easy as you would think when he's got a 13th place average finish. So even starting in 17th, I don't think I love the play at 9,500, where Christopher Bell is, I think, far superior than Chase Elliott as at this track. But you could substitute Chase Elliott in for Christopher Bell in certain situations. That's kind of what I'm saying. Tyler Reddick. This actually ends up being quite an interesting play. $9,300, starting in 24th, 13.4 average finish, 1 top 10 or 1 top 5, 3 top 10s in the last 5 races here. Doesn't have a win on the season. He was 20. This is the strange part. He was 22nd in single lap in practice, 4th in 10 lap. But the really crazy thing is you start to look at his practice speeds, and they are very close to being one of the best looking charts. Even when he has a slow period and he comes in and gets an adjustment, he still comes back out and fires off fairly quickly. The only spot that becomes a real issue is really, really late in this run. And I couldn't really pinpoint what may have been why he was much slower, other than, maybe it's because he was really fast here and just really did a super long run, which made him slower than everyone else. Because if we look at the longest run that he had, he's here in yellow. I mean, he is with William Byron across, and even better than William Byron from lap 14 to lap 19, and then is a little bit slower. So the Tyler Reddick play starting in 24th, I think I really like that play also. I like that play better than I like the Chase Elliott play. Definitely like it better than the Joey Logano play. Because if you put it on the calculator here, start him in 24th, get to 10th, it's going to need to be better than 10th. It's going to need to be 7th. 6th. 6th, let's not leave any laps. Let's have 10 fast laps. So 24th to 6th with 10 fast laps gets him to 60 points. And I'm not sure you got to get quite to 60 with $9,300. I think you could be in the 55 to 60 point range. I think your best pivot is off of Bell is probably a Reddick, and third would be to go to maybe a Chase Elliott. So, and somebody asked about Ross earlier. Yes, Ross is pretty good here. He was actually really good in practice speeds. He was 7th in single lap, 6th in 10 lap consecutive average. I said he won this race 2 years ago in a championship race. Was not running for the championship. He's got a 13.2 average finish, 16.3 over full course of time. If we look at his practice speeds, he's in black. Ryan Blaney's in yellow. I mean, like I said, they don't match up spot for spot. And in one of the runs, he is faster than Blaney. The second run, he is not. And it's really hard to say, were they setting the car up for a short run? Were they setting it up for a long run? Were they doing some tire pressures? But fast lap to fast lap, Ross was slightly slower than William Byron. So, but starting at 13th, I mean, honestly, his averages are all 12th and 13th. To try to get to 60 points, and, if we're thinking that all these other guys are going to lead all these laps and all these fast laps and everything, even if Ross Chastain makes his way to 5th, it's only 49 points. It's in the top 15. I don't have a problem with having Ross as maybe a sub-core driver. I don't think he's an all-out fade, but I think he's probably going to be in, maybe 4, 5 of my lineups, maybe 6. But, yeah, he's good here, but I think he's probably going to finish at or just slightly better than where he starts, but I don't think he makes it to a top 5. And even with a 5th place finish, it's only 49 points. So I will probably fade off of Ross Chastain for the most part. I said I'll have a 1, 2, 3. Josh Berry starting in 7th. Yeah, I don't like this play at all. He's starting way too far up. He's way too expensive. I don't know why they priced him at $8,500. He should be $7,000. I mean, his practice speeds were good. He was 8th in single lap, 12th in 10 lap. He does not have a 1.5 average finish. I don't know what's got screwed up there. He's got a 16th place average finish. 4 starts, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. So not awful. No, it's 22nd. What? Why is my sheet all screwed up? I don't know. Either way, I know he's starting in 7th. Now I'm really curious. Why is my sheet screwed up? Josh Berry. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. I don't know why it's carrying the average. That's what it is. It's carrying the average fast laps over. His average finish is 16th. Okay. Sorry. It's the end of the season. I'm starting to get a little. Why is Perry that price? Call Draftkings? I don't know. I didn't price him that way, but I think it's ridiculously high. I mean, I think it's because he does. I think it is because he's part of. He finished in 4th in the spring. He's part of Penske, and Penske runs fairly well at Phoenix. So I think all those combinations, everybody was kind of like, ooh, Barry should be really good here. And I mean, he's higher priced than Austin Cindric. I think Austin Cindric actually might be better here, but both of them are not. Both of them should not be where they're priced. Plain and simple. He's way overpriced for being in the championship race. No, I don't even put it on the calculator. I mean, this is going to be ugly. Even if he gets to 16th, I mean, it's negative points. It just doesn't play. I'm a fade on Barry. Number 1 on price. Number 2 on averages. Number 3 from starting spot. All the things together. Kyle Busch, same thing. $8,300. Why is Kyle Busch continually priced this high up? Kyle Busch should be $7,300. Starting 11th. His practice speeds were 23rd on single lap, 24th in 10 lap. He finished 8th in the spring. Okay. Has an average finish of 17th, starting in 11th. It just, the longest run he did in practice was 9 laps. He spun in practice. If you happen to watch practice, he did spin in practice. I mean, a lot of drivers spun in practice or had tire issues. But no surprise, Kyle Busch did the same. So yeah, I'm going to fade off Kyle Busch just because of his starting spot and because he has an average finish of 17th and his practice speeds were just not that good. I don't have to put it on the calculator. It's negative place differential. Chris Buescher starting in 9th. Geez. $8,000. Now this is probably priced probably about right. What is his actual average finish? 17th. Not 10.6. The average running position is 11.1. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, pretty consistent. 19 total starts, 16.8 average finish. Practice speeds were not great, though. It was 27th and 19th. Oh, Lordy. Dodgers hit a home run. All right, Toronto's going to have to come back in the bottom. And if we look at his practice speeds, he's in yellow. William Byron is in black. I mean, he's a little bit better than average to about average. Starting in 9th. I just think he's starting too far up. It's just too hard to get to, that 55-point range. He's going to need to go up and finish top 3 just to get to 50. 10 fast laps doesn't even get him there. So needs to finish 2nd or 1st. Possible, but probably not going to happen. I mean, he gets into 1st, he gets to 57 points. I mean, he's going to lead laps at that point. But, I mean, you get kind of what I'm saying. Unless you think he's going to win, honestly, I'm not putting Chris Buescher in to win this race. I'm going to probably leave that to Ryan Blaney or one of the championship guys. So I think Chris Buescher might be starting a little too far up. Bubba Wallace, average finish of 21st here, not 1.8. 19.6 overall, 2 top 10s in the last 5 races, 3 top 10s overall, 18th in single lap, 10th in 10 lap, but he's starting 23rd. His practice speeds actually were not that bad. They're better than average, especially his fire-off speed for the first 9 laps are better than average and about at William Byron's pace. Then they go to about average, and then they kind of meet at about lap 16. So not awful on his speed by any means. Starting in 23rd, we've got some room to run. He's $7,700. He's affordable. Yeah, I mean, what is he going to need to get to 10th? I don't think he leads 20 laps. Take that out. And we'll give him the 5 token fast laps. So he's going to need to finish 8th at $7,700 to get to 53.25. That probably plays. I don't mind having some ownership in Bubba Wallace at $7,700. It's a good kind of nice middle tier, starting in the 20s. I don't need a whole lot from him. Don't need you to lead a lot of laps. Just go get a top 10. And his practice speeds were okay. I think that, with some attrition, he could easily get there, as long as he's not the attrition. Austin Cindric starting in 4th. I mean, his practice speeds were pretty good here. His average finish is 20.6, not 4.2. I figured out where to look, so we're good. It never finished in the top 10 here in the Cup Series. Twice in the top 20 out of 7 total starts. 3 times in the top 20, no top 10s. 23rd place average finish. And if we look at his practice speeds, he's here in black compared to Ryan Blaney. And this is, somebody asked earlier if resources are taken away from some drivers and some are given to other drivers. Yeah, this would be a really good indication where I think Ryan Blaney probably, they, until last week, were going off the sneaky suspicion or wanting Ryan Blaney to make this race. So a lot of these cars were already set up. And I think Austin Cindric's car, since he was already out of the playoffs by that point, was absolutely an experimental car for future references, or for as a foil, a difference to Ryan Blaney in case the setups were just off. They could have a different car to look at. So Austin Cindric way off on speeds all over the place, but had a couple of really fast laps and then fell off really hard. Starting in 4th, it's just, I don't have to put it on the calculator. I mean, he's going to be lucky to finish 15th, which is 11 spots negative. So I'll fade off of that. Alex Bowman starting in 8th, 7,300. Average finish of 20.9 over the last 20 races here. His practice speeds actually were pretty good. But as somebody was saying earlier, do they take resources away from other drivers and give them to the championship drivers? Absolutely. And that will absolutely be the case for Alex Bowman. Like I said, his practice speeds were not bad. He's not far off from Willie B at all. But he's starting in 8th, and I think at best he gets to 5th. And I'm not sure he leads any laps. It's 44.25 points. Well, it's in the top 15, but for him to really make the optimal, he's going to need to finish in 2nd. I mean, 7,300, 50 might play. 50 points might play. So, I mean, unless you think he's going to go finish 2nd, he shouldn't be in your lineups. Brad Keselowski. Oh, wow. We got some hits going on for Toronto here. God, we got a game. Jeez. Brad Keselowski, $7,100. This could end up being one of the best 7-game series in the history of the World Series. This is crazy. These guys just keep hitting balls. Starting in 19th. Red speeds were rough. 35th in single lap, 30th in 10 lap. They were just struggling everywhere. Does not have a win at Phoenix in his 32 total starts. Has 19 top 5s, but as of recently, it has not been good. I mean, if you look at his fastest run compared to William Byron's fastest run, it's still not really that pretty. It's average, if not just slightly worse than average, and he's starting pretty much at average. So, trend line is 12.6, which isn't bad. Starting in 19th. If he goes and gets up to 9th? 47.25. He's going to need to get up to 5th. would put him in there. Probably even 7th. 7th would get him probably close to the optimal. Crazy that Kershaw's warming up at the bottom of the 11th, game 7 to send in the. Yeah. I mean, at this point, you don't have there is no game 8. It's you literally throw everyone you have at this game. Because it's you. What are you going to do? Rest them for game 1 of next year? So yeah, you literally throw everything you have in the kitchen sink, and Toronto do the same thing because I mean, oops, we blew the guy's arm out to win the World Series. Okay, so yeah, Clayton Kershaw could come in and get the save. I mean, right now it wouldn't be a save, but yeah, I mean, this is the kid that pitched yesterday, right? To get the Dodgers to game 7. I mean, 1 out. I mean, all you need is a sacrifice fly. I mean, this guy's going to need to strike him out. No way. He called a ball on that? 2 balls, no strikes. That's crazy. I mean, honestly, walking him here would not be a bad play, because then you get the forced double out. I'm surprised they didn't just walk him. Other than he's the 5th batter. Yeah, you could do that. Like you could pinch run somebody in. But I mean, why would you want to do that? Because then if you pinch run him in, he's out for the rest of the game, and you don't want to do that in case you go to 18 innings. So yeah, I wouldn't put a pitch runner in. But that absolutely was an intentional walk. Other than they just didn't send it immediately. I mean, they're also waiting for pitchers to get warmed up, I think, also. Ryan Preece, starting in 21st, $7,000. He was 4th in single lap, 17th in 10 lap. Okay. Starting in 21st. Now his practice speeds were a little bit on the wonky side. He's actually, I mean, this is a lot like he did really well. They did pretty well at Richmond. He had a really good race at Martinsville last week. He does really well with high tire wear situations. I don't mind the Ryan Preece starting in 21st. Because once again, I mean, just like Brad Keselowski, it's not going to take a whole lot at $7,000 to get him probably really close. I mean, a 10th place finish. I mean, I think he's going to need probably 50 points. Maybe he needs 45. Somewhere between 45 and 50 points would get him probably close to optimal. Fast laps, yeah, I mean, leave him at 5. He could probably maybe even have 8. That gets him. I mean, that's really close to being right in the ballpark. So I definitely like the Ryan Preece play. Ty Gibbs starting in 25th. 1, 2. There's the double play I just talked about. Dodgers win. Holy smokes. Womp, 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 womp. Yep. And back-to-back World Series champs. All right. Now we can just talk about NASCAR. Okay. Yeah, Ty Gibbs' practice speeds were all over the place, but he's starting in 25th. But the problem is, I don't know if that's. I mean, his average finish at Phoenix is 22.6. His trend line over the last 5 regular ovals is 23.2. But starting in 25th, I don't know if he makes it to a top 10. But I don't think he may not need to get to a top 10. Yeah. Probably needs to get to a top 10. Maybe 12th. So Ty Gibbs gets to a 12th. Gets him to 46 points. 6,800. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Ryan Preece. I think I like Ryan Preece better because I think Ryan Preece is better at this style track than Ty Gibbs is, at least in the next gen era car. But yeah, Ty Gibbs is absolutely in play. Probably kind of middle of the road core for me. It's not going to be a super high owned. I'm probably going to have him like 7, 8, 9 lineups. So 20, 25% ownership, where I'd probably have Ryan Priest 20, 25%, about the same. Carson Ostervar, I will absolutely fade out. I have no interest in Carson Chaos Ostervar. If he goes out and wins the Carson's crazy enough and dumb enough to go out there and screw with Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson and the rest of them to try to win his first race. And if he screws it up, they should banish the guy forever from the league. I like Carson Ostervar a lot, but he is sometimes not much smarter than a box of rocks. But he's a hell of a good race car driver, but he drives way over his head. So starting in 6th, I have absolutely no want. I don't want to be anywhere near Carson Ostervar. So he's a complete fade for me. If he goes out and wins the race, so be it. I'll take my lumps. Austin Dillon starting in 26th. Oh, I'm sorry if that was really loud. I did not mean to cough that loud. Starting in 26th. I mean, you would think there would be a translation from Richmond to Phoenix. They're so similar, but they are so different. Yeah, I mean, in his practice speeds, he only got 13 total laps of practice in. I don't understand why Richard Childress is having such a difficult time in the next gen era, and he literally just won the Xfinity series with Jesse Love. It's a head scratcher. I mean, at this point, I would say we need to substitute Jesse Love with Austin Dillon, but at least Austin Dillon wins a race every year. Put Jesse Love in Kyle Busch's seat. The problem is they're not going to do it for next year. They're just going to keep the same lineup. I mean, honestly, Austin Dillon should go into the ownership role, let his grandpa enjoy retirement, and bring Jesse Love up and put him in. The problem is everybody like, no, you need to put Austin Hill in first. Well, guess what? Austin Hill hasn't won a championship, and Jesse Love has. So that Jesse Love hasn't been suspended for races for dirty driving. Eric Jones starting in 15th. Practice speeds were, where was he? 12th and 8th. I mean, pretty decent practice speeds. The Toyotas are pretty decent here. And like I said, it's so hard because they don't lap up correctly. But let's look at the single fast laps. He's not as fast as William Byron. He's about average, and he's starting a little bit better than average. For him starting in 15th at 6,400, even trying to get to the 45 points, he's going to need to finish 6th? No. 7th? 8th? So Eric Jones needs to go finish in 8th, starting in 15th, when his averages are 22. And his practice speeds were about average, which would put him 20th. So nothing here tells me that it was going to be that. Gibbs is really good at the Xfinity series here. I mean, I'll double check my numbers because my sheet seems to be a little bit messed up tonight. Yeah, Ty Gibbs has a 23.4 average finish at Phoenix, 1 top 5, and that translates to just 1 top 20. Let's see, Ty. Where's Ty finished? In the spring race, Ty Gibbs finished in 25th. The fall last year, Ty Gibbs finished 40th. The spring race of 2024, he finished in 3rd. That's probably his 1 top 5. That's his best finish. And the fall of 23, he finished 21st. And then in the spring of 23, he finished 28th. So, nope, he's not that good here. But starting in 25th, I don't mind taking some shots on him. At $6,800. I mean, he's pretty cheap. Starting 25th, his practice speeds were fine. Eric Jones, I think, is starting too far up. It's too risky for somebody who finishes 22nd on average to go and get an 8th place finish when his practice speeds were about average. Zane Smith starting in 22nd. Did I not do a chart for him? Oh yeah. I don't know why I got rid of his big chart, but either way, he didn't practice a whole lot of laps. He had 22 total laps of practice where everybody else had like 64. He's got an average finish of 27th at Phoenix. I think it's only like 4 races. Average finish of 27th. He's starting in 22nd. His practice speeds were 17th and 34th on long run. So, starting in 22nd, it's starting to maybe he gets to start in 22nd, get to top 12. Would put him there. I mean, so at 6,300, sure, take a couple shots on Zane. I'm not gonna have a whole lot, you know. The problem is front row was so up and down. One of the drivers is probably going to do well. I just don't know if it's going to be Zane, Noah, or Todd Gilliland. Daniel Suarez starting in 14th, starting too far up. He has an average finish of 15.8, which isn't bad. It's his last race with Trackhouse. Yeah, you want to talk about pulling resources away from one team to give them to another team. I mean, at this point, Trackhouse really doesn't care. They don't have a championship guy in the hunt. But, why are you going to give it to the guy that's not going to be with your team next year? So, if anything, run experiment and see if it works. But his practice speeds were worse than 14th. So why do we think he's going to finish any better? He typically ends up a lap down here. So I don't need to put it on the calculator. It's negative place differential. Michael McDowell, I'm scratching my head because I do not know what he did in qualifying to qualify 37th. But I mean, he's got an average finish of 17.6 here. This is your free square. So Michael McDowell, Bell, and one of the 4 top drivers. There's your starting lineup that will be super chalky, but then you've got to, run a Ty Gibbs and, an SVG starting in 31st. And by the way, SVG has figured out how to drive ovals. He's not perfect at it yet, but he is absolutely starting to figure out how to drive ovals. Over the last 5 races, he's got an average finish of 23rd. And I know that's not great, but for where SVG was at the beginning of the year to now be at 23rd, that's pretty good. And we look at his practice speeds, they're better than most of the other drivers. So watch out next year. SVG may be for real. We could be talking about him making it to the final 8 or whatever playoff scenario they've got for next year. They may have a full season championship. Who knows? That's going to be the big key for next year. I don't know what they're going to do. I honestly like probably the most unpopular, which is a 3 race, and then a 4 race. But all the polls that I've seen, that they say that's the least favorite. But SVG starting in 31st at $6,000. I mean, is it? I don't love it by any means. Is it playable? Absolutely. Go finish in 13th, 15th. It's 44 points. and he's going to be super low owned. I mean, he'll probably start to have some ownership, but he'll still be kind of a sleeper pick. So, yeah, I don't mind running some SVG starting in 31st. So, a Michael McDowell starting in 37th, an SVG starting in 31st, a Christopher Bell starting in 20th, a Ty Gibbs starting in what did I say, 22nd, and then one of your 4 most expensive drivers. Noah Gregson starting in 18th. I'm sorry, Noah, but you're starting too far up. He does have an average finish of 19.8 at Phoenix, so this is one of his better tracks. He finished 26th here in the spring. That's not very good. But 18th, and your practice speeds were never better than average. That's the concerning part when you go out and qualify 18th, is all of your practice speeds are 20th or worse. So, negative place differential for me. I will fade off of Noah Gregson. John Hunter Nemechek, $5,700. Starting in 28th, he was 19th in single lap, 21st in 10 lap consecutive run. Look at his practice speeds. He's in black here compared to Ryan Blaney in yellow. He's right there with, I mean, he's not far off. I know they don't match up perfectly, but, the lines kind of show about the same. Now, he's about average on the single fast run that I could find. But he did 56 laps of practice. I mean, he did a lot of practice. And starting in 28th, with an average finish of 23rd, I mean, these aren't great, but they're worth taking a shot on. Go finish in 13th and, even probably 14th would probably play at $5,700. I mean, it's dirt cheap. I'll be more than happy to take some shots on John Nemechek. Go get a 14th place finish. Okay. So, yeah, I don't mind the John Hunter Nemechek play. I don't mind the Todd Gillen play starting in 30th. And once again, his practice speeds were garbage, but I don't need a whole lot. Average finish of 23rd. Over the last 5 oval races, he's got a 17th place finish. So his trend line is really, really good. Starting in 30th, finishing 15th, 43 points. And that's with 0 fast laps. That's literally just gain 15 spots, get 43 points, probably puts you close to being optimal at $5,600. AJ, even starting in 38th, I'm not sure I'm going to have much ownership. You could just literally, after the massive wreck that he had at Talladega, and he destroyed his car in practice, to the point where they had to go to a backup car. And what that's going to end up looking like and actually driving like is a head scratcher. I think Colin Grayson has just said, we're done for the year. We don't care. So I honestly not even sure that AJ will finish this race. Not because you wrecks. I just think it'll be like, this car's too hard to drive. I'm done. And he'll just pull it off the track. They're done. They're done. I mean, this is his long practice. He got a total of 14 laps in before he wrecked it. And he wasn't really even that fast. So even starting in 38th, I would rather take more Michael McDowell than AJ Allmendinger. Take AJ and hold your nose, because I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know if AJ even finishes the race. And you might park it and just say, "Oh, nope, the brakes don't work. I don't know what's wrong with it. I can't drive it," and just be done for the year. He just looks so dejected after practice today. And he crushed the wall. I mean, he crushed it. So yeah, I mean, even starting dead last in the field, I don't know if I'll have much ownership in AJ, even at $5,500. Oh, Cincinnati's going to make a run at it, huh? Okay. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in 16th. Practice was 25th and 23rd. When he's got an average finish of 23rd. And he's starting in 16th. He outkicked his coverage. I don't have any interest in Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at $5,400. Justin Haley, this will be his last ride in the 7 car, and he doesn't have a ride for next year. I mean, maybe he tries to go out and do something so he can potentially get a ride for next year. His practice speeds were about average. So maybe he gains the 10 spots. So from 29th to what? 17th? 38 points. I mean, there's a possibility there. I don't have a whole lot of love for anything much past Justin Haley, really. Or even Ricky Stenhouse Jr. or AJ. I think Todd Gillen might be one of the cheapest plays I go with. Cole Custer starting in 27th. Cole's actually not bad at this track, but his practice speeds were not great. He's going to need to get to a top 15. I don't know if that happens. Ty Dillon, once again, with Colleague, starting in 34th. I mean, ever since he wrecked William Byron, this team has been way out to lunch. It's just bad for Colleague right now. I mean, his practice speeds were never better than average. Starting in 34th. Even his fastest run never got close to average. Yeah, he's starting in 34th. I mean, at least he has a 24.7 average finish. And at least he's kind of still fighting for his ride here. I think he will stay in the 10 for next year. AJ's locked in for his ride. So Ty's still trying to make sure that he holds on to a job here. Because, I mean, you never know. Maybe Colleague goes back to Justin Haley. Doubtful they've already been down that road. So I think they'll hold on to Ty Dillon, but he's definitely still driving to prove something. And hasn't had the literally living crap beat out of him for the last pretty much 2 weeks. So I'll take some Ty Dillon starting in 34th at $5,000. I mean, what does he need to get to 19th? 34th to 20th. Almost puts him in optimal range. So I'll take some Ty Dillon. I don't think AJ gets there starting in 38th. I don't. Riley Herbst clobbered the wall, still got his car repaired and backed up, and is starting in 32nd. Actually, starting in 32nd. And I honestly think that Cody Ware might beat Riley Herbst. Practice speeds were not good, and he destroyed his car in practice. So more likely he's going to have to drop to the rear, which isn't far from starting in 32nd. But, I mean, he's got an average over the last 5 races of 26.4. Starting in 32nd, there's just not enough room there. Cody Ware, starting, I mean, maybe. Like I said, I think Todd Gillen is the cheapest I go. Maybe Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon and Todd Gillen are probably my only cheap drivers that I go to at this point. All right, we're 2 hours and 18 minutes in. We've talked about baseball and the Dodgers winning. We've talked about football and everything else. We've talked a little NASCAR. We've talked a lot about NASCAR. The guys that I really like. Bell is my number 1 rank out of my algorithm. William Byron is number 2. Ryan Blaney is number 3. And Kyle Larson is number 4. I definitely really like Denny Hamlin to potentially win the championship. If he wins the championship, he will be in the optimal lineup because he'll, number 1, finished in first, and he will probably have led at least 60 plus laps. So I definitely like the Denny Hamlin play. I do not like the Joey Logano, even though my algorithm says they like it. I don't. I don't think Ross Chastain, I don't think there's enough movement, upward movement for Ross. There's small pockets of chance, so maybe. Andrew, you're more than welcome, buddy. And we'll be back for Daytona. I usually don't do the Clash. It's too wonky, and you just don't know all the players because they have the heat races. So it'll probably be the Daytona race when I start back up. Maybe I do a follow up, especially if the lawsuit changes. Maybe I do kind of a commentary on the state of NASCAR and where we're headed. So kind of keep your bell on for me going live. But yeah, you're more than welcome. And any of my hits this weekend, let me know. I'll definitely shout you out. Chase Briscoe and starting in 12th. I don't know if they got all the damage fixed. So I'm a little concerned there. Will I run a couple of lineups with Briscoe? Sure. Busher starting too far up. Alex Bowman starting too far up. Carson Hocevar is chaos. So that's a no. Barry is a no. Cindric is a no. Kyle Busch is a no. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. way outkicked his coverage. No. Justin Haley, maybe he's fighting for something. So maybe some Justin Haley. I don't mind the Shane play. So Justin and Shane, even though they got down here in my question mark usage, I don't mind that. Cody Ware, no. Riley Herbst, no. Cole Custer, probably not. JJ Elliott, no. Casey Mears, no. I didn't even put them on my sheets. They were a no before we even got to practice. I really like the Todd Gilliland play. Do not like the Suarez. Austin Dillon, big question mark. AJ, because he's starting dead last in the field, but I honestly don't know if he makes it to the end. Eric Jones, starting way too far up, no. Zane Smith, starting too far up, in my opinion, no. Noah Gragson, starting too far up, no. John Hunter Nemechek, I actually like the John Hunter Nemechek play. I like the Justin Haley, the SVG, and the John Hunter for cheap picks so far. Ty Dillon, I don't mind the Ty Dillon because I think he still needs to prove that he needs to hold on to his job. The Michael McDowell, absolutely, I think is a decent play. Ryan Preece, absolutely a good play. Ty Gibbs, that's pretty solid. Bubba Wallace, pretty solid. Brad Keselowski makes me a little nervous. The Reddick play, I really do like the Reddick play. So pretty much this whole group in here, you could easily mix and match to try to match with two of these Top Guns or the championship guys or the Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, the real expensive 10,000 guys. So yeah, like a Michael McDowell with a Ryan Preece with a Bubba Wallace with two of those guys, and then fill in the blank. Those types of things. So that's what I'm saying. We can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can literally look at 8 drivers that I'm 8, 9, 10 drivers I'm eliminating already. And we have 38 starting. I'm already down to 28. I come over here. Noah Gragson is 11. Zane Smith is 12. Eric Jones would be 13. Daniel Suarez 14. There's 14 of the 38 drivers I can eliminate right out of the gate that I probably will run 0 to maybe 1 or 2 lineups, and that's a big maybe. So that's kind of how I build my lineups, and that's kind of how I go through the process of who I like, who I don't like, who I think may end up being in there, and who sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm right. So, yeah. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Oh, that's the wrong thing. God, I really screwed this week's up. Either way, it's been a long season, and it's been a long week after coming back from Martinsville and being a little under the weather. But, either way, the content's there. Good luck. I appreciate everyone tuning in for these super long discussions. Especially during football season, it gets a little wonky watching college football and the World Series and all the other things. But good luck. I appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We will see everyone for Daytona in February, unless I do a special episode. You're more than welcome. Enjoy the race. And yes, God bless to everyone. And have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What do we